Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the public lecture series of NMML. We have the pleasure of having with us today Professor M. Amarjeet Singh. He is a professor and also honorary director at the Center for Northeast Studies and Policy Research, Jamia Millia Islamia. The topic of his lecture today is district level autonomy and tribal development in Northeast India. Historically, Northeast India has suffered from four kinds of marginalizations. One, of course, is the geographical marginalization because of its location in the northeastern extreme of the Indian subcontinent. Second, of course, was what can be fitly described as a kind of cultural marginalization from which to varying extent it continues to suffer even today. And third, again, it was very important, this was economic marginalization, because as we know, there is a deep and important connection the world over between the geography of a region, the location, the geographical location of a region, and also the cultural perceptions about the region and its economic development. So this was the third deficit, the third marginalization. And the fourth marginalization, which was related to these three, was the knowledge marginalization, which means that people in other parts of the country, leave aside in other parts of the world, were not as well aware of the problems, issues and challenges, strengths, weaknesses of the Northeast as they were of the rest of the country. In the last decade or less than a decade, a lot of efforts have been made to address some of those problems, and in fact focus on the Northeast has come also as a part of the important Act East policy of the present government, which is an extension of the Look East policy focusing on the Southeast and East Asia, which was initiated by Prime Minister Narasimha Rao in the 1990s. So definitely things have changed to a certain extent. Now, the question that he is going to address today is district level autonomy and tribal development in Northeast India. The fundamental question is, why is there a need for district level autonomy when it comes to economic development? These needs arose out of multiple factors. One, of course, was that the Constitution of India adopted a model in which the center was very powerful. India is a union and not a federation of states, as a result of which the fiscal powers of the states of the Indian Union were comparatively weak. And second, in a vast country, diverse country like India, states themselves had a lot of diversity, and this is often overlooked, that a state may be a political and administrative unit, but inside every large state of the country there are tremendous diversities, and tremendous diversities in terms of culture, in terms of languages, and in terms of economic development. Even in highly developed states or states that are seen as highly developed, for example Maharashtra, you find that only one or two regions which are comparatively small are which can be called more developed. And the same is true of course Tamil Nadu, the same is true of almost all states which are generally seen to be developed. So this means that there was a certain complexity of economic development. There was a certain challenge before economic development in the Northeast also, which was sought to be addressed by the development of autonomous district councils, which were provided for in the 6th schedule of the Constitution. Of course, there are other provisions also by which the state governments can create autonomous district councils. I am by no means trying to say that economic development was the sole concern of these autonomous district councils. In many cases, they were created because of the persistent demands from the local communities to protect their culture, identity, etc. But I believe the focus of Professor Amarjeet's lecture today is going to be not on those cultural and political issues, but on the question of why these autonomous district councils were created as far as economic development issue is concerned, and what have been the outcomes of these ADCs, whether or not they have really helped in the economic development of these areas. As far as I understand, the record of these ADCs is a rather mixed one. In some cases they have contributed quite significantly, and in some cases they have not, but I do not want to preempt our speaker. So with these few words, I would like to once again welcome him, and I would request him to proceed with his lecture.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very kind introduction and the way you have presented the topic that which I'm going to touch upon. And I'm also thankful to the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library for inviting me to share some of my understanding on the working of autonomy in the northeast part of India. So thank you very much, and thank you the audience here and the outside. I will be speaking on the importance of autonomy, the district level autonomy, and the role of autonomy in development. So that is the so I will be my talk will be brief, will be divided into three broad part or the section. So this my talk, and this is the part of ongoing research that I am engaged in, and the study is based on the field work and the official data and the various research studies on the autonomy. So there has been several studies on autonomy, because this experiment of autonomy started in the northeast part of India right from 1952 onwards. So therefore, as a result of that, several studies has been conducted on the autonomy. But my purpose here is that I am going to look at the developmental role of the autonomous district council. So then when I say autonomous district council, nowadays, the sixth schedule of the constitution has been amended several times. So as a result of that, nowadays, this autonomy has been manifested, in the form of autonomous district councils and the territorial councils and autonomous. So therefore, the nomenclature have also changed. Now, why this study is relevant is that in the northeastern region, there are about 130 districts. Out of this 130 districts, about 45 districts are autonomous districts. Means about 45 districts enjoy some kind of autonomy under the sixth schedule of the constitution or various other legislations. So, and these autonomous areas or the districts are the areas which are predominantly inhabited by the tribal people. Okay. So, and this district enjoy limited autonomy either under the sixth schedule or other, under different legislation. So therefore, today in the northeast part of India, you have autonomous district council which are under the sixth schedule, but there are also autonomous district councils which are under different legislations. So therefore, now when, as I have just mentioned, now this in some area, now most of these councils are known as autonomous district council, but some councils are known as like, territorial councils or the autonomous council. But I will just use this term, the common, nomenclature, autonomous district council. Okay. So therefore, my focus of today's talk is also about the sixth schedule Autonomous District Council, because I don't want to touch the other Autonomous District Council. So therefore, I will be focusing only on the Autonomous District Council which are working or functioning under the six schedules. Now, regarding the power and function, as you know that the autonomous district, the sixth schedule of the Constitution has been amended several times in the past. So therefore, the different councils have different power and function. Some councils have more functions, whereas some councils, do not have that kind of. Say, for example, in the case of Bodoland Territorial Councils, has more power and functions than the other autonomous, councils. And why this, kind of, the developmental role is important is because many of these autonomous district council in the Northeast are older than most of the states in the Northeast, because in 1952 there was only one state in the Northeast, that was the state of Assam and the Union Territory of Manipur and Tripura. So these autonomous district councils started functioning right from 1952 onwards, and so therefore we need to look at the and if you look at the administrative jurisdictions of these councils. So now, say some councils, the administrative jurisdiction of some of the councils are, a part of a district. Say, for example, the Chakma Autonomous District Councils, their area of operation is a part of a district, a subdivision. But whereas some councils, like the Bodoland Territorial Councils or the Tripura in Tripura tribal areas Autonomous District Council has more areas. So therefore, in terms of power and in terms of their the administrative jurisdiction is all very different. So therefore, in some Autonomous District Council, the area covers about 4 to 5, maybe 4 or 5 districts, say, for example, in the case of Bodoland Territorial Council. But in the case of other council like Chakma Council or the Mara Council in Mizoram, they operate within a part of a district, a subdivision or so. So as a result of that, the population, the living in these autonomous district areas differ from even less than 1 lakh population to several lakhs population. Say, for example, in the case of Chakma Autonomous District Council, the population will be even less than 1 lakh. But whereas in the case of Bodo Council or in the case of Tripura Council, it will be, at least about, say, 1 or 2 million people. So this is how the, now as many of us are aware that these councils are delegated with legislative, executive and judicial functions. So, but today my focus is only on the executive functions of these councils. I am not looking at because these councils, because they can, this council can make laws and on certain subjects, and so I am not going to look at those aspects. I am only going to look at the executive functions of the Autonomous District Council. So the executive component or the function of the Autonomous District Council is like the state government. Say, for example, in the state government, you have the chief minister and then different ministries and like that. So likewise, in the Autonomous District Council also, you have the chief executive member, which is the replica of the, like a chief minister. And then like the state government, there are different, different departments. So therefore, now if you look at these executive functions, of these autonomous district council are very, very similar to the the functioning of the state government. So like the chief minister or the minister. So likewise in the executive functions of these autonomous councils, in this there are several departments. So say for example in the state government also there are several departments. There are 50, 60 departments starting from education to health to irrigation. Likewise in the autonomous district council also there are different departments. Say nowadays most of the autonomous district councils which are working or functioning under the sixth schedule, they control, or there are about 40 district in there are at least 35 to 40 department in each autonomous district council. Of course it will differ from one council to another council. So therefore, so what I am going to look at is that how this how these departments are functioning, what is their role in the development of those areas. Because as Sir has also mentioned about the lack of development in the northeast, and the central government has been doing a lot for the development of the so therefore what I feel is that in bringing about faster development in the northeast, for that the autonomous district council also should play a very, very important role in the developmental process. So therefore now these autonomous district councils, and there is a the relationship between the autonomous district council and the state government is very interesting. So that also I will discuss a little bit in the later part. So, and there is always constant negotiation and bargaining, because you see when the autonomous district council started in the 1950s, or in let's say in the 1970s, many of these councils, they control only few departments, say like education or health, and they always negotiate with the their respected the state government, and then with in due course of time by about 1990s, or so the state governments were compelled to transfer several departments to these autonomous district councils. So therefore in these autonomous districts, the some of the most of the department which are under the state government has already been transferred to the autonomous district council. So therefore that is where the where it is important to look at the relevance of autonomous district councils in the development of those areas. So, and now before I move to the other side, very briefly, there is, as I said, that the state government, the role of the state government is very, very important in the functioning of the autonomous district council. Autonomous district council cannot operate without the cooperation of the state government. Even the budget, the preparation of the budget, and then even the release of the budget. So in all this matter, the state government plays a very, very important role. So as a result of that, there is always constant negotiation and the bargaining, and then sometimes conflict between these autonomous district councils and the state government. So we will look into those aspects in due course of time. So now with this introduction, so let me focus on the autonomy and development. So even in the sixth schedule of the Constitution, the autonomy is not just about accommodating diversity and difference. Autonomy in the sixth schedule is also about economic development. So therefore, the purpose of this talk is also, so I am going to look at that development. So now, as I just mentioned when I started this my talk, there has been a lot of study on the working of autonomous district councils in the Northeast, because since the autonomy has started right from 1950s onward, as a result of that, lots of literature, research literature has been produced on the functioning or the relevance of the autonomous district council. But if you read most of the articles or most of the studies on the autonomy is about the role of the governor, the identity politics in the autonomous district councils, then the misuse of fund, and then and then sometimes many people also look at this autonomy as a stepping stone towards statehood, because many of these autonomous councils, they are also demanding separate states. So therefore, and as a result of that, the most of the study on autonomy is all about this identity politics, this the misuse of the development funds, relationship with the state government, the governors, and the identity politics, and so on and so forth. So as a result of that, what we have seen is that in many of these studies, the developmental side has not been given due importance. So therefore, this is where we need to look at the So now these autonomous district councils perform various developmental work through various departments which are attached to them. So therefore, now there are about 40 departments which are attached to the autonomous district council. So let us look at some of the important department. Now there are 40 something department, say some of the important departments are like education, health, public works, agriculture, and so on and so forth. These are the departments which has been transferred to the autonomous councils by the state government. So for example, now if you look at education and the autonomous district council, most of the autonomous district council, what is interesting is that when the autonomous district council started in the 1950s, at that time till about 1970s, 80s, the autonomous district council controlled only up to the primary school level. Only up to the primary school level. Then, as I said that there has been always negotiation and bargaining between the autonomous council and the state government. As a result of that, now more power and function has been transferred to this autonomous district council. As a result of that, today some councils control up to the the higher education level, excluding technical and medical education. Say for example, Bodo Territorial Council, they control up to the higher education. And then say for example, other councils like the North Kachar or the Karbi Anglong autonomous councils, initially they control only up to primary level educations. So now over the period of time, so the more power has been given. So as a result of that, they control up to the high school level education. So therefore, what you see is that as a result of that, what you see is that overall in 10 autonomous district council under the 6th schedule in the Northeast, they control more than 15,000 schools. I mean, when I said schools, it includes primary schools or the high schools, and and then other higher level institutions. So therefore, this autonomous district council, they control more than 15,000 such educational institutions in the Northeast. Say for example, the Tripura tribal autonomous district councils, there are more than 5,400 schools, mostly primary schools and a few high schools under the Tripura Autonomous District Councils. Because the Tripura Autonomous Council is a bigger council. So likewise, in the case of the Bodoland Autonomous District, the Bodoland Territorial Council, they control more than, because their area of operation is about four districts. So as a result of that, all those schools in those districts are managed and controlled by the Bodoland Territorial Councils. So likewise, see that their power and function in terms of education differ from one, say, council to another council. Whereas in the smaller council, like the Chakma Council in Mizoram, because that is a smaller council, but they also control up to the primary and elementary school education. So, and now apart from this, the looking after the maintenance, the running of these schools, so the autonomous district councils, be in Tripura or in Chakma, because the Chakma council is a very small council. We cannot just ignore that. Many people will say that they don't have, their contribution is very negligible. Although their contribution, there are many challenges and but despite of that, these councils plays important role in the development of tribal languages. Say for example, the role of Bodoland Territorial Council in the development or the popularization of the tribal language like Bodo language. And likewise in the case of Tripura, like say in the development or in the popularization of the learning of this Kokborok language. And likewise, even in the, if you look at the Chakma Autonomous District Councils, although very small council with very little, power and function, they have done lots of work in the development of, Chakma language. So in terms of encouraging people, and then in terms of, the development of, Chakma grammar, then in terms of the development of Chakma literature, and in terms of the development of, Chakma poetry. So likewise, some of these councils, either in the Bodo Council or in Tripura Council or in Chakma Council or any other council, so despite of, looking after or running after several schools under them, so they have done, some relevant work in the development of the tribal languages, such as like Bodo or the Kokborok, and so, and as like any other, the government department, so this education department, say in every autonomous district councils, like nowadays there are so many centrally sponsored schemes like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and any other schemes are there. So therefore, and in the implementation of these centrally sponsored schemes, so the autonomous district councils plays a very, very important role. So as a result of that, now there are many studies. There are studies done by there are several studies that has been done. The educational role of the autonomous district council in Tripura or in other areas. If you look at some of the studies that has been conducted in those remote areas, because these autonomous areas are largely, except for Bodo autonomous area, most of the autonomous areas are in the hilly, in the remote areas. are not in the plain areas except for the Bodo Territorial Council. So now studies conducted by the government organization and the by other research scholars have also found in some areas in Tripura and also in Bodoland that shows that the gap in literature, in literacy between the tribal and the other general population, the gap has narrowed down. So this kind of there are several studies that has been conducted about the role of the the autonomous district council regarding educations. So the education is one thing. Then another one is the public work. And then say, for example, infrastructure development, let's say construction of road and all that. Now, when the 6th schedule started in the 1952, there were no, it was very unclear, it was this, infrastructure development was not properly mentioned in the 6th schedule of the Constitution. And then in due course of time, the 6th schedule has been amended again and again. Now, the 6th schedule has been amended at least 15 times in the last 70 years or so. So as a result of that, in due course of time, in the amended 6th schedule, it has been clearly mentioned about the role of this autonomous district council in infrastructure development. Say, for example, in 2003, the Bodo insurgents leaders, they signed an agreement with the government, and as a result of that, the 6th schedule was amended. Now, if you see the amended 6th schedule, then it clearly mentioned that about the infrastructure development. So therefore, now what is the role of this autonomous district council in infrastructure development? Now, this is again very debatable, but so what you see is that in every area or in every district or in a state, there are roads which are controlled by the central government, like the national highways. Then there are roads which are controlled by the state government under the public work department of the state government. So now in the autonomous areas, in these areas, there are roads, there are many roads, I must say that, which are controlled and managed by the autonomous district council. Say, for example, the Tripura Autonomous Council, they control about 460 roads in the state of Tripura. And whereas the bigger autonomous council like the Bodo Territorial Council, they control more than 700 roads in the autonomous areas. So now in terms of kilometers, say for example, the Tripura Autonomous Councils, they are in charge of more than 2,500 kilometers of road in the state of Tripura. So likewise in the Bodoland areas, so in the Karbi Anglong areas. So as a result of that, what you see is that and then the issue here is that some of the councils like the Bodo Territorial Council, the Tripura councils, or the Karbi Anglong Council, or the North Kasar councils, so they have been able to look after several roads under their control. So, and as a result of that, what you see is that many studies which are done by the state government, by the independent researchers. So the role of this autonomous district council in rural connectivity. Say for example, when we talk about Northeast, we often talk about connectivity, like under the Act East policy and all that. But now when we talk about the Act East policy, it is all about the connectivity, inter-regional connectivity. But what about the connectivity within the village or within the particular remote areas? So in that kind of, if you look at we cannot say that the autonomous district council do not, we cannot say that their role is, they don't have any role, but they have done at least some some work in terms of in terms of building rural connectivity, means village to village connectivity. So in that case, so as a result of that, when we talk about this road connectivity, we based on various research and then based on our field work, we can argues that, or we can say that the autonomous district council do play a very very important role, at least in terms of accelerating rural connectivity. And then when we talk about this infrastructure development, now the sixth schedule, the amended sixth schedule, now in terms of this infrastructure development, so we know that what we have seen is the infrastructure development done by various council. Say for example, when we talk about the performance of various councils in terms of infrastructure development, what the evidence show is that the Bodoland Territorial Council has done in the last 20 years, done lots of infrastructure development work in terms of construction of road, in terms of development of administrative infrastructure like construction. Say for example, the Bodoland Territorial Council was set up in 2003, and then what we have seen is that the kind of infrastructure development, construction that has been going on in the autonomous areas. So this is also as a result of that, what you see in the Bodo areas, the infrastructure development which are taking place in large numbers, such as even the educational infrastructure or other infrastructure, road construction, the construction of bridges, in terms of rural connectivity. So as compared to other councils, the role of the Bodoland Territorial Councils has been very very exceptional in terms of the infrastructure development. So therefore, despite of the various limitations, because most of these councils have their own limitation in terms of funds and the capacity building. So despite of that, these councils have been able to do some infrastructure development work. So this is also so like the education and like the the infrastructure development. Now if you look at in terms of say healthcare, say for example the like education, the healthcare, say the healthcare in the autonomous district areas are looked after by the autonomous district council. So therefore now almost all the community health center which are operating in those autonomous areas are comes under the autonomous district council. So therefore, if you look at from various various parameters like education, then the healthcare, and then in terms of infrastructure development, autonomous district councils, despite of various limitations, have played some important role. So, and with this, let me just give you some of the, the major findings that we generate based on various studies, and this is based on our interaction with the people in those remote areas. So some of the major findings based on interaction with those people. So one of the very visible impact of the of these autonomous district council, as a result of that, there is a this is, I mean, there is this is a very generally agreed that the number of tribal people who are employed in the government services has increased significantly after the creation of the autonomous district council. So this is one, there has been studies on this, and when we go to the field also, the perception, and we interact with the local people there, is that they says that the number of tribal people who are now employed in the government sector has increased very significantly after the creation of the autonomous district council. So this is also true, because when it comes to in the northeast, because the northeast, in the northeast, the government is the main provider of employment. So as a result of that, what you see, so this, the number of tribal people who are in the government jobs. So this is interesting, but at the same time, what is also another problem in this autonomous district council is that although the many tribal people has been appointed in the government job, but what is also one of the lacuna in the autonomous district council is that many of these autonomous district council are overstaffed, means there are, so this is also one of the problem. But the general, agreement is that the number of the tribal people in the government job has increased very, very significantly with the formation of the autonomous district council. This is one of the, and the another important, finding which I must say is that when we go to the rural areas, in the very, very remote areas, because these are not in urban areas. Many of these autonomous district councils are largely in the very, very remote areas. So when we look at what is the impact of this autonomous district council in terms of literacy, so now the many studies and also the general perception is that the gap in literacy between the tribal and the non-tribal has decreased. This is also one of the many conclusions from many of these studies and our field work. Then other conclusion or the finding is that now, say, some autonomous council like Bodoland Territorial Councils and the Tripura Council, there is an agreement that some infrastructure development had happened in those areas. Because you see, what is interesting here is that now at one point of time, why these areas are also demanding separate state is also because there is a perception that these are the areas which are neglected by the state government. So therefore that perception already exists in those areas. So therefore people felt that with the coming of the autonomous district council, there is some visible changes or visible development. So in terms of infrastructure development, no doubt the Bodoland Territorial Council has done lots of infrastructure development works. Because when the Bodo insurgents signed agreement with the central government, so they were very smart, and as a result of that, they were able to bargain and manage to get so many projects and so many so as a result of that, and then in Tripura also the infrastructure development. So that is visible, but another one of the biggest complaint is also in the Bodoland areas also. Many people, they argues that the infrastructure development is also what they see is that in a place like in the Bodoland areas, many respondent argues that the infrastructure development is largely concentrated in the urban areas. See, because you see, Assam, what is interesting is that when the sixth schedule started in the 1950s, the idea at that time was to protect the hill tribals. So that was the idea. So therefore, in 1952 and then later on, so the sixth schedule was councils were confined in the hill areas only, in the hill at that time in the state of Assam. Then what happened is that with the Bodoland Council, so the Bodo inhabited areas, these are the plain areas. These are not the hill areas. So what you see is that earlier it was for the hill tribal people, and now it has been extended to the plain areas. So this is so this is the so therefore so this is the so this kind of that complaint is also very much visible. So now the last part, I will just conclude. I mean, just with this, there are many challenges in the functioning of the autonomous district council, because I have said that autonomous district councils are like state government. At the same time, the autonomous district councils are also strictly controlled by the state government, because all the funding has to be routed through the state government. So therefore, the role of the state government is very, very important. So therefore, what is some of the biggest problem in the autonomous district councils is that the most autonomous district councils could not influence the state budget preparation. Say, for example, the budget of an autonomous district council has to be included in the state budget. Say, for example, say Bodoland Territorial Council budget has to be included in the Assam budget. So what happened is that in most of the councils, except for the Bodoland councils, are unable to influence the state budget preparation. So this is one area that has been one of the concern, the relationship between what is interesting in the case of the state, the Bodoland Council, is that they have been able to influence and they have to able to bargain with the state government. So right from their inception till today. But that is not happening in the case of the other. Then another one of the biggest problem in many of the autonomous district council is that there is already that allocated plan fund. What is interesting, what we observe is that now in several autonomous councils, when the plan fund is used, up to about 99% of the plan fund is used for the payment of the salaries of the employees. So therefore, as a result of that, the money which is left to be spent in developmental work is very less. So this is one of the, so therefore, as I have said in the beginning, that most of these councils are very, very overstaffed. So as a result of that, what I see is that in some of the councils, the plan budget that is available, so about 99% of the budget goes to the payment of the salaries. So therefore, little money is left for other development work. So this is, and the other, another problem is that, the autonomous district councils are also supposed to generate their own resources, their own revenue, So this is also again another area that has been, of course, there are many challenges because they have to negotiate with the state government, and the state government always try to control them. So these kind of issues are there in the autonomous district council. So to conclude, I'll just conclude just 1 minute, sir. So now what I see is that, these autonomous district councils, in terms of their developmental work, what I see is that I broadly categorize them into 3. So the one is the councils like the Bodoland Territorial Councils, that is the which is able to carry out large scale development work. And the second category is the councils like the Karbi Anglong councils and the North Kasar councils. And the third category is the smaller ones like the Chakma councils and the Mara council. So this is and what we observe is that, the departments which are under this autonomous district council, what we also notice is that, there are 40 departments under autonomous district council. And what was interesting is that only few departments are important. So like education, health, there are several non-functioning, departments. So this is also some of the problems that we observe. So I think I will stop here, sir. Thank you very much, sir.